Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Stephanie and I am the Everyday Sewist. I'm glad you could be with me today. I have a lot of projects to share today, and I hope that you'll find that fun and inspiring and maybe get you to work on some of your UFOs or some of your projects coming up really soon. I hope you'll have time to do that too. So this first section that I'd like to share with you is about the things that I finished over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So with the exception of the one that's hanging behind me here. I've decided that each time I video, I'd like to go back into my quilt vault and pull something out that I would like to share with you. So this time it's a tumbler quilt made with mostly K facet fabrics. He's a designer for Free Spirit Fabrics. I love his fabrics. I love working with them. And one of my goals a few years ago was to make a tumbler quilt using his fabrics. So this one uses a tumbler with a template. I don't think the template is available any longer, but I'm sure there are other templates that you could use. This one was made with an 8-inch strip. So from that 8-inch strip, I cut I call these long, skinny tumblers. There are 13 rows, and there are 23 tumblers in each row. It finishes at about 81 by 97, so that's around 300 tumblers. And I quilted it with a design. I have a long arm, so I quilted it myself with a design that's like an easy loops. So the loops are kind of like figure 8s that are offset from row to row. So I kept the design for quilting really simple. And on the back of it is another cave print that I really, really love. So let me get that for you to see. This gorgeous, gorgeous, huge floral, great big floral. And I don't know if that's available anymore. Like I said, I made this quilt, probably within the last 10 years. I don't remember. I don't have a date on that one, at least not handy. But it was really a fun one to make because the rows actually go together really quickly. I remember laying out the whole top, pretty much the whole top. But you wouldn't have to. You could just sew pairs of tumblers and then sew pairs to pairs and build your rows and lay them out in rows, in horizontal rows. The only thing that I tried on this that was kind of new for me is I left the edges in a zigzag. I did not want to trim off the tumblers and have them trimmed off on the sides. So on the sides, there is a very, very slight curve to them. If you ever wanted to give that a try, this kind of a tumbler is a really good one to do that with because the curves on it are very gentle. Binding it was no trouble at all. I just used a regular bias binding, but I'll bet even a straight binding would work out for this one as well because the curves are so gentle and you can just easily manipulate the fabric in the hills and valleys of that outer edge. And then of course the top and the bottom edge are straight because the rows are straight. So I'm really looking forward to putting this one up on my bed in the next week or so, and it'll look like a gorgeous flower garden. And since I don't really garden at all, that's about as close as I can get to a flower garden. So that's my prior finish for my older finish. And now I want to show you some of the projects that I finished up in the last few weeks. I kind of went on a tear. It's funny how sometimes they all seem to finish up at about the same time. The first finish that I had since the last video is this potato chip quilt. I think last time I showed you a finished top. So really all I've done since then was get it quilted again on my long arm, and I'll show it to you up close because that may be the best way for you to see the quilting pattern. It's called Blackberry, and I used a variegated thread with lots of oranges in it. I just thought I'd try something kind of different. Usually I match the thread to the quilt, but this time I just kind of went a little rogue and tried something that I thought might be kind of fun. I'm probably going to give this one away, and so if it goes to a younger person, they might enjoy having something that shows up a little bit more. So here's the quilting pattern. Again, that's called Blackberry. Oh, and this is the backing that I chose. This wild and crazy Kaffe fabric. I think it's called Bang, something like that. Wild thing, which also was inspiring me to use the orange thread. And I talked about it a little bit last time, as that it's called a potato chip quilt. That's just the style name of it. It's been kind of on a tear, quite the quilting rage these last few months that I've noticed. And mine is made with 2.5 inch by 4.5 inch cut bricks. And if you Google that, you will find lots of different layouts for those bricks and blocks. So that's the one that I chose for that. So I finished the binding on that at the end of March, and then I think I may have shared some of this Bargello one. This next one is a Villa Rosa pattern called Elsie May, and I started it at my sewing day and had everything cut and started laying out the pattern, and it's a really quick sew. I think it uses 13 fat quarters, and the directions on it, if you're familiar with those, they worked out really well. So let me hold this one up for you. The only thing I will say is that I had a little trouble getting this Bargello pattern to fall just where I wanted it to. I ended up having to take off a couple rows from the bottom and put them up onto the top. Not my favorite thing to do, but it was worth it because I really needed those darker blue bars to fall in a better place. So if you were to try to make that one as well, you're sewing columns together, and so you want to pay attention to where your focus fabric is going to fall on that. And somehow I missed the way it was going to. I just missed it. It didn't come out the way I had first thought it was. So I thought I had it balanced, but I didn't. So I'm not sure I really have any tips for you on that, except that I had to resew it. I had to take it apart and put those rows in a different spot. Oh, the backing, this is from a line called Kingyo. It was by Figo Fabrics from a couple of years ago. The backing is also from that same line. It's kind of a Japanese inspired line. It's really pretty cute. And so the backing is this, and maybe you can see the quilting pattern as well. I just used a really large flower and loop pattern. It's called Ginger Spring or Ginger Flower, one of the two. And it will also probably be gifted or given away. It's a nice size lap quilt, and so it is a good size for gifting. So I finished that one on the 1st of the month, got that binding done, and then I pulled out a group of 20 blocks that I had made a few years ago. I had put them away, wasn't sure what I wanted to do with them, and at this point in time, since it had sat for a while, I just thought 20 blocks is going to be enough. It's going to be a smaller lap size quilt. I think there is a good reason and there is a need for sometimes for people to have just something smaller. I just went ahead and put those 20 blocks together. No sashing, no borders, just got that done, popped it on the long arm, and had this all completed within a few days. The pattern for this was a free pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop called Jelly Roll Ripple, and it finished at about 40 by 46, like I said, one of the smaller ones. And sometimes that's enough, and it lets that quilt move along to its next home. And it got one of the UFOs off my list, so that was just fine for me. This next one, same issue. I had 20 blocks sitting around for a really long time, and so after being successful with that last one, I thought, going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to get these blocks up on the design wall, just put them together, finish this off, and get it out to somebody who would enjoy it. So this one is a rail fence. A rail fence this one has 4 strips. Sorry, 3. Mine has 3 strips, sorry. So there are 3 strips going this way, and then the next block goes 3 strips going the opposite way, and you keep changing the direction of the way those strips are laid out. And then I did add a border on this one. I thought that helped to tie it all together. And this line is called Madison 1, and it was by William Rue, and I did add a couple of other fabrics in with it. And I think it'll be, again, it's a really vibrant quilt and will be enjoyed by someone once I gift it. So the quilting pattern on this one is called Herringbone. I did use a matching thread on this. It's really hard to see. I'll try to hold it up so that you can see that pattern, but I don't know that it's going to show up very well. I just don't think I can. Well, maybe you can see it a little bit if I kind of angle this. And I match the binding to the same fabric as the border. I like to do that a lot. I either like to use that, and sometimes I will use the same fabric as the backing to use for the binding. It just keeps things simple and usually keeps things unified. So that was another one that I knocked out pretty quickly. And let's see, so the next one was my puff quilt. And I learned how to do a puff quilt at my retreat from one of the other retreaters there. That's the greatest thing about a retreat, is that you can share ideas, and she was working on hers. I bugged her for about 10 minutes so that she could show me, and she was more than happy to share and very generous sharing with me what she had done. So the puff quilt is, as I shared some of it last time, the only thing I needed to do this time from when you saw it last was I needed to get it quilted, which was a stitch in the ditch both directions, and to get it bound. In binding, it's a little tricky. There's a lot of layers there. I had to redo some sections of it, but it's okay. It's going to be hopefully used and loved a lot, and so I'm just happy with how it turned out, and I think the mom and dad will really enjoy it too. I almost had it shipped out before the video, but that hasn't gotten done yet, so I'm getting to share with you the end project here. So let me stand up and show you this one. And I used a flannel for the backing, which I think is going to be really cozy. And you can see that this is just stitched in the ditch, and it just makes a grid on the back. Use this cute little, it's a purple and white fabric on the back. So that one was nearly finished, and I just had to get to the last couple steps to get that one to the completion. So then one more, that's it, one more little thing that I did. And I think this one has kind of an interesting story to it. I made this pineapple quilt a couple of years ago, and I've used it a bit, and every time I used it, I would look at that binding and say, don't like it. And it kind of became a negative thing in my head, and just not enjoying that binding. Well, fast forward to a couple months ago, I was at my guild and was listening to a speaker who talked about actually taking apart an entire quilt because she wasn't happy with something that had happened during the piecing process. And so she had taken her blocks apart. To my best recollection, that's what she was saying. It made me stop and think, because she didn't like the way it had turned out, and she went back to the beginning and fixed it. So as that thought kind of rumbled around in my head, a couple weeks ago, I thought, you know what? I don't have to live with this binding that I don't like. I'm going to take it off and put on a new binding. And I'm going to change that, and I'm going to be a lot happier with it. So I did. So in case you ever think about doing something like that, it really wasn't that hard. It took me maybe an hour or two with my seam ripper to take the binding, the old binding off, and I cut a new one, and the next day I sewed it down onto the front. I took it with me on a car trip, had some time in the hotel, and I stitched on it each night in the hotel, and almost had it done. Of course, it's not a queen size quilt, it's a lap size. And I am just so much happier with it, and I'm so glad that I did that. And now I'm going to start looking around at some of my other projects. If there's anything else that I don't like a binding on, I would happily do that again if it made me more comfortable and more pleased with a quilt. So I'll just hold it up because I don't think I haven't shown this quilt before anyway. So I'll show it to you. I used the pineapple trim tool and instructions by Guyleen Fitzgerald. She's a wonderful teacher. She teaches at a lot of quilt shows, and that's where I took a class from her. Her method worked really well for me, and I think this is the third quilt that I've made with her tool and with her instructions. And I always like the way it turns out. And it uses a bunch of strips and strings. So let me hold this up. So I took that binding off and I put it into my strips and strings drawer, and I bet you want to know what I put on it. Well, I guess I'll start with the quilting pattern on this. This quilting pattern has its concentric circles. It's not the exact name of it, but the backing is this Kaif, again another Kaif fabric, and I decided to use another one just like it. I think this is called Paper Fans, and in the purple, and I put on a binding that is a black paper fans, and it looks like a stripe, doesn't it? And it's really cool to see how some fabrics can look like a stripe even if they're not a stripe. And I do like to use stripes for bindings. So I had that chance to do a little bit of altering to that one, and I'm really glad I did. And those are the things that I've been working on finishing up over the last few weeks. And in the next section, I can show you some of the works in progress that I have. And I'm really excited to share with you a couple of those that I've made some good progress on in the last couple weeks. So let me get that set up. So as you can see, I changed my backdrop a little bit. I've moved over to another section of my studio because this is my current work in progress behind me. And it's a project that I started back in 2017 called Long Time Gone. And it is, let me grab the booklet here. It's by Jen Kingwell. And it was done as a sew-along back in 2017, and I had actually gotten quite a bit done during the sew-along, but had not sewn any of the sections together. So over the last month and a half, 2 months I guess it's been now, I have slowly worked on getting all these sections together. And now I am adding the borders. I'm doing a pieced border, and I'm cutting 2.5 inch strips for it. It's a little bit different than what the instructions call for, but this is the way I want to do it. So anyway, I just thought I would share with you today where I'm at on this project, and hopefully I am going to get it done in the next couple of weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So that's my major goal, and since it's been hasn't been finished for such a long time, it's on my 2025 list of the quilts that I most want to finish this year. Some of my other finishes that I showed you before are random finishes. They weren't on any list except they were on my UFO list. But this one is on my definitely want to finish in 2025 list. So I am slowly making some progress on that. So the first thing I did was I added these yellow strips to go all around the side, and then I just added the blue strips, and next I'm going to be adding some oranges, and I have just pulled those fabrics, and I think these are the fabrics that I'm going to use for that. So I will be cutting some 2.5 inch strips from them and placing them around and auditioning them as I go, and hopefully it will turn out really great. I've already been asked, when someone had seen a picture of it earlier on Instagram, someone had said, "You're entering that in the quilt show, right?" So my guild is having a quilt show this fall, and I should be able to get it done in time to have it just for display at the quilt show. So that would be really fun as well. So that one is on my most important get done list. So the other one that I wanted to share with you today, some other projects that I'm making some progress on. Last time I showed you these blocks just as blocks, and now I have this little top done, and this will be a table runner. So I just need to pull out a backing for that, and I think I'm going to straight line quilt it. Um, um, maybe on my long arm, maybe not. I'm not there yet, so I'll figure that out when I get there. So that should be finished fairly soon as well. And the other work in progress that I wanted to share with you, so true confessions here. Let me get a little closer so I can tell you about it. I had some difficulties. I had already filmed this video only to realize that I had some audio problems with it. So I'm refilming the whole entire thing. The silver lining in that is that between these two tapings, I was working on my temperature quilt, and because it went from April into May, I now have 4 full columns to show you, because I wasn't even going to bother showing it before because it was still just the 3 columns. So now I can show you a little bit more progress on my temperature quilt. So I'll just tell you again briefly what I'm doing with this. Each day is represented by 2 fabrics, that correspond to the high and low. And I had pulled fabrics out at the beginning of the year, and I think it's 15 different increments. So if this is April 1st, I have the high temperature and the low temperature. And then in the next, it's April 2nd is high and low. And what I did is I cut a 2-inch by 7-inch piece for each of those fabrics. And I did a free form, like a little bit of a wavy cut through both of those fabrics and sewed them together, and then trimmed it to a 2.5 by 6.5 inch piece. Okay, so these 2 strips together, they were 2.5 by 6.5, and when they are finished in the quilt, all seams taken away and sewn in, then it will be 2 inches by 6 inches. So if you haven't heard that term before of unfinished and finished, that's a very rough explanation of that. So pretty interesting. So I continue working on that. It's just 1 little block a day. And I have found that it's easier to wait and do maybe 2 or 3 days at a time instead of 1 at a time. But I am keeping up with it. So I'm completely up to date. Now, the next project I have is another one on my 2025 bucket list. It too has sat for a very long time, working on it intermittently. And it was a leader ender challenge that Bonnie Hunter did or introduced years ago. I think it was back in 2012. And if you go on her website, quiltville.com, I believe that you can still find it there. I'm not quite sure how she has it set up, but if I can put that information into the description box, I will. So this project was a bow tie leader ender. I have 40 of these blocks made. So I have determined how many more I need to make. I'm down to the last 100 bow ties to make, maybe under that. I have most of them cut out already, and then if I can, my goal is to make a total of 56 blocks. I'm at 40 now, and for me that's getting fairly close. So if I work on it this month and next month and get all those blocks done, I should be ready to have a finished quilt sometime this summer. So I'm really hoping to stick with it and not put it aside again, because that's happened multiple times. And if I can push myself through, this one will also get done this year as I was hoping to. So Long Time Gone and this bow tie are two of the ones that were really important to me to finish this year. I started this year with a list of 25 projects, 2 a month basically, plus the temperature quilt, of 25 projects that I really, really, really wanted to get done. And so far, including all the random ones that I've finished 13 projects so far this year. So I'm doing pretty well getting some of these older things completed, and I think that will feel really, really good. If I could just not keep starting new things, that would be even better. However, so I love making blocks. That's my favorite thing to do. Did you see my t-shirt? I still play with blocks. I love this t-shirt. I think I need to get one in every color. So since I love making blocks, I'm really thinking about doing the Moda Blockheads 6. If you haven't heard already, they are starting the 6th in the series at the end of May. And if you look up Moda fabrics or just type in Moda Blockhead 6 in your browser, I think you'll find the information on it. And I've made one of the previous ones. I always like how they come out, and I do have a plan with it, and I'm not going to go into detail on that yet, but maybe in a future video. So I have some blocks that I had started for a different project, and I think I'm going to combine those blocks with the Moda Blockhead blocks and use those two together, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm really excited to participate in it this time. So of course that goes into my new starts, and I really wasn't going to talk about new starts yet. But anyway, so I have 4 projects that I'm really going to focus on over the next little while, between this video and the next video for sure. And hopefully one of those will get done. So before I wrap things up here today, I thought I would, I talked a little bit about my spreadsheet last time, so I thought I would give you some more of the details on that in case it's interesting to you. So this is my spreadsheet. It's very simple. See all those yellow lines? I'm happy with those yellow lines. That means it's a project that I've done, that I've completed. And so on my list for 2025, I had, like I said, I had 25 projects on it, and I'm down to about 10 or 12 more, so I think I'm doing pretty well. I probably won't finish them all. That's okay. I've got to have a goal though, right? So I thought I would tell you a little bit about some of the projects that I have, some statistics. So I have 3 projects for 1.5 inch squares and strips. I have 2 projects on my list that use 2 inch squares and strips. I have 8 projects using 2.5 inch squares and strips. I have 8 projects on my list that would be completely new, so they're certainly not a UFO, are they? Just ideas that I want to remember. I have 10 sampler quilts, and that would include the Moda Blockheads if I go ahead and start that. I have 4 log cabin projects and 4 potato chip projects, like the one that I showed you earlier. And I have 38 kits that I have not started. So again, not a UFO, but that's certainly some projects that I'd like to get working on at some point. My oldest UFO right now is from the year 2000. 16 of those are from the first decade of the 2000s. I have 25 projects started between 2011 and 2020. And I have 18 UFOs that I started in 2021 up until now. So there's about 60 UFOs total. And I do believe I will get to them at some point. And I'm okay with that. So if you are also in that realm of having lots and lots of UFOs, I think that's just the way some of us like to work. And I'm okay with that. But I just thought maybe you'd enjoy hearing a breakdown of what things look like in my sewing room. And as I said, right now I'm working on 4. And they're all in the piecing, well, a couple of them are in the piecing stage, right? That one table runner just needs backing and quilting and binding. So they're often at different stages of what needs to be done, and so that's why I do typically have a couple of different projects going on at any one time. So in life updates, things have been pretty busy this past few weeks. We did get our flooring finished. That was supposed to be a 10-day project and took 3 weeks. And then it's taken us another couple of weeks of cleaning up afterwards. So I got to my spring cleaning a little bit earlier than usual, I suppose. It still feels like the house is dusty, so I'm still trying to work through all of the places where that dust has settled. But I do like the floors. I really like the way it turned out, and I'm really glad that we got it done. It's just not the most fun process to go through. And my mom is here. She's be here for another couple of weeks, so we get out and about now and then and take in some of the springtime flowers and things to do around the area, and so we've been having a really nice visit so far. Today is a little bit of a rainy day, so I thought it would be a good day to get some of this taping done. And last but not least, we adopted a cat. So my son has 3 cats, and one of them did not get along well with the others. I think he was actually on the receiving end of being a little bit picked on by the other ones, and so we decided to adopt him and bring him here. He's an older kitty, and she is an older kitty, and I hope she's really going to like it here. And I have created an Instagram page for her, so if you want to see that, then if you can find the link for it at my Instagram page, and I am at @stbrokaw. So if you go to that, then you can find the link for Lola. Her name is Lola, and she looks like a gray shadow. She's kind of hard to spot when she decides to hide somewhere. So we're hoping for the best on that, to give her really good life again. So those are my life updates, and I hope that life is treating you well. I hope that you're getting time in your sewing room and working on projects, and enjoying this season of springtime and getting to do the things that you love to do. So that's it until next time. I hope it won't be quite so long in between videos this time, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got some inspiration. I hope it was fun for you. Leave me a comment if you have any questions, and I will do my best to answer them. If there's something else that you wanted to see or more explanation, let me know. And I hope that you'll come back and join me again on the next time. I am the Everyday Sewist, and thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.